This is David with High Performance Stoicism. I want to talk to you about dealing with everyday fear. The journey of practicing Stoicism is a movement toward virtue, and someone who is virtuous is courageous, which means, according to the Stoics, that they have absolutely no fear. None. That's an incredibly high goal, but there's a lot having to do with fear that we should examine and confront now and learn how to deal with to improve our lives. Seneca says, all men are slaves to fear. Now, when you hear that, some of you are going to say, well, that's obviously right. Others of you are going to wonder about it and say, maybe that's right. And some of you are going to be outright skeptical. Many people will say, I'm not really a slave to fear at all. I'm not living in fear. But let's look into the matter and let's start by talking about situations where many people would say fear would be an issue. Many people are afraid of getting into a confrontation about an issue where there's a disagreement, whether it's with a coworker or a family member or a friend. And that's part of why people delay talking about things that will lead to such a confrontation. More clearly, people are afraid of physical confrontations where violence is going to be a part of it. You might get injured, and who knows, you might get seriously injured. You could get killed. And then many people are going to say, okay, well, in that case, put me in the category of I'm a slave to fear. I don't want to deal with that. And that's understandable. But let's bring things down to earth to the everyday level where, okay, is what Seneca's saying correct? Now, for people that are into personal development, I want you to think about this one especially because for people that are have thoughts of here is what I really want to do in my life, I would love to do this, and in some ways I value this the most. I'll give you a couple examples. So, take someone who has thought for years, I've always wanted to write a novel, but they never get down to finishing even the first chapter. Think about someone else who says, no, at some point I'm going to make my move. I'm going to build a business, and here's what it's going to be like. This is really the most important thing that I could think about, and I would love to do it. But guess what? Such a person never even really gets down to making a thorough sketch of the business they want to create. Now, you might see yourself in one of those pictures, and here's what's really going on in such a case. Many people will say, I am just procrastinating. I'm just delaying doing the thing. And we've even come up with a new term for this, which is I am experiencing resistance. In my view, and in the Stoic view, the real reason you're not doing it, the real reason you have not put paper and pen together to start your writing, your first paragraph of your book, is fear. It really is that simple. And we miss that. This is for the simple reason that, number one, there is something about it that's on a subconscious level. So we don't experience actually the terror that you might experience of confronting a giant animal on a hike, like a bear. But nonetheless, it is fear that's holding you back. And the second ingredient for you're not recognizing it is that you don't really want to admit to yourself that you are fearful of this thing. And let's add three, to you, it doesn't really make sense. I agree, it's irrational, but if you examine yourself when you try to start one of these things, you're going to see, okay, something's stopping me. And looking into it, you'll find, if you let yourself admit it, there's some kind of fear involved. Now let's move to an even more common kind of everyday fear, which people experience every day. And the reason I know this, the reason I came to this is because even after practicing Stoicism for a while, even after I got better at doing what I think is the most important thing every day and overcoming the fear of getting started with writing a book, is every day, most people have the following situation. People that are working, they get up in the morning, they're reluctant to go to work, and then they start to think about what will happen if I don't get in the car soon? What will happen if I am late? What is my boss going to do? And I think the vast majority of people will find what really gets them going in the morning is fear. How so? Because you think about, if I get in late, my boss is going to chew me out. My colleagues will look at me in a certain way. And because I've been late a few times in the past, whatever it is, you think about the embarrassment that you might suffer. And here's you could call it a plus to doing this. It really gets you moving. Now, I didn't realize I was doing this myself, and you might not recognize you're doing this either. But here's what I want you to think about when you have the thought, if I don't get going, I'm going to be late. Think about this. Can I get going and act just as quickly in just as uh, focused a way if I don't use fear to manipulate myself? And I think you're going to find that the answer is yes, of course. Of course, I can say, I'm going to be focused. I'm going to get out. You can make it a game, even. I'm going to be out of the house within a half hour, and you can do it. No fear involved, and you're just enjoying the challenge. So now let's talk about what the cause of fear is in all cases. The Stoics give a simple explanation of it. Fear is caused by your judgment that this future event would be bad. My boss giving me a hard time would be bad. My boss firing me would be bad. My colleagues looking at me like I'm a tardy person. I'm a jerk for being late. That would be bad. But here's what you have to do. Recognize you are in a way manipulating yourself to get going. You're using fear against you, and you don't have to do that. So, what you do instead of the judgments I just gave is you say, okay, my boss would have some words for me. My colleagues might look at me differently, and I might get fired. As long as you don't put on the judgment, it would be bad if I had these outcomes, you will diminish the fear you have or lower the fear, and then switch your thinking to, how am I going to challenge myself to get out of here without using fear against myself? And what you're going to find is, all right, in many respects, I'm still going to be a slave to fear, but I'm chipping away at the shackles. It's having less of an impact on me than it used to be, and that's a step forward. That's it for this video. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, give some comments, and we'll see you in the next video.